John Batchelor, Gordon Chang of Forbes.com at my nation's capital affiliate, WMAL. And we're joined by Rick Fisher of the International Assessment and Strategy Center. Run silent, run deep. The silent service, the submarines of these last 100 years, now part of geopolitics in Asia. The news item is Australia buys submarines. The explanation requires a deal of information about who sold those submarines. My note here says Japan. How's that? Rick, a very good evening to you. The Japanese selling submarines to Australia. Is this a surprise? How do you interpret it? Good evening, Rick.
Thank you, John. The Australians and the Japanese have been in a slowly accelerating defense dialogue and relationship for a long time. They've always been at the American military defense allied network table in Asia for decades. But like the Japanese have been reaching out to India over the course of much of the last decade, so they have been reaching out to Australia to put together their own relationship. And since the Japanese relaxed their previous prohibitions on major weapons sales, the new Australian government has decided to strike hard and early and go for very advanced Japanese submarine technology.
Gordon?
So, Rick, we know that the Taiwanese are now looking for submarines so they can defend themselves. The United States, despite the Taiwan Relations Act, isn't helping Taiwan. Do you think Japan might become the next arsenal of democracy in Asia and start thinking about a defense relationship with Taiwan? Or is that just sort of like one country too far?
Well, Gordon, it's very interesting. The Japanese have already started to step up in the Philippines, which is militarily is almost a vacuum, and a very dangerous one because of what we all know what the Chinese are doing right in that neighborhood. The Japanese are also interested in a relationship with Vietnam, but other Southeast Asian countries aren't as eager. Japan can offer many things. They can't offer as many types of weapon systems that are as well developed as the United States, but they're getting there. And it's surprising the variety of systems that Japan could offer today. But you asked about Taiwan as well. At least initially, my thought was that Japan would get involved in Taiwan's submarine quest indirectly. That is, perhaps, if they were approached, they might sell an older submarine design to an American company that would then modify it as per Taiwanese requirements and re-export it to Taiwan. But should China get aggressive with Japan and actually kill Japanese soldiers, airmen, sailors, I'm not sure that Japan would hold back. They might consider a direct sale.
I read maybe more than a year ago, Rick, that a weakness of the PLA Navy build-out plan was anti-submarine warfare. Is that accurate? And does that make the Japanese submarine something that the PLA cannot counter, not in the immediate future?
John, that picture is changing very quickly. Over the last decade, the PLA has invested in a range of anti-submarine technologies, and we're seeing new towed sonar, very useful in Taiwan's environment, being backfitted on frigates and outfitted on new corvettes. The PLA is now testing a new P-3 size large anti-submarine patrol aircraft. There's been investments in passive towed arrays, better sonar for submarines. So it's no longer possible to say that ASW is a real deficiency for the PLA. It is being corrected quickly. So there's really not much time to lose in Washington getting together with either a European or perhaps a Japanese source and tying Taiwan up with some good submarine technology.
Gordon?
So, Rick, when we look around Asia, we see this massive military buildup. And when we talk about submarines, that's at the heart of that buildup, with the Indians buying submarines, the Vietnamese buying Russian subs, now the Japanese getting in on the deal with selling stuff to Australia and maybe elsewhere. It really seems to me that submarine warfare is really at the center of what's going on in all of these defense planners around the region. Isn't that right?
Yes. Submarines get attention. Submarines have an appeal that is basically just short of a nuclear weapon. A submarine is very hard to find, no matter how much anti-submarine technology you have. There's always that chance that it'll be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and your capital ship will be sunk, and you'll be embarrassed, or your population will lose its will, much like happened in Argentina during the Falklands War in the early 80s. So yes, everybody wants submarines to deter their favorite adversary.
Do they work in the first island chain? Is that the answer to the Japanese build-out?
It helps. Of course,
Chinese build-out, forgive me.
It helps a lot, John. It's not the only thing you need, but it certainly helps a lot.
Rick Fisher of the International Assessment and Strategy Center, Gordon Chang of Forbes.com, and we're talking about Asia, which is the quiet part of the globe right now, given the upset in the Middle East and the challenge and new Cold War in Europe. However, there's an arms race on, and we just told you about an important component, Japan, which my producer reminds me is the new arsenal of democracy. I'm John Batchelor.